What on earth are you doing, lady? What is that you're stewing? Don't stray far from the hearth, place not while you are brewing. A little bit of this and a little bit of that is what you want. Now throw into the middle and it will work.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Witchlit podcast, or the Witchlit show should I say, because it's not quite a podcast. We go out on YouTube. So welcome to everybody. And Wendy Steele and myself, Sheena Cundy, we are co-hosts on this show, and we both run the Witchlit Facebook group. And from there we've expanded, we've grown, and our subject is our genre Witchlit, which is really fiction and non-fiction. To do with the fiction side of it is everyday real witches doing real magic in a modern world, which is basically what we are, isn't it, Wendy?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And Witchlit has so much more, doesn't it? We've realised that the more that the group has expanded, and we've started, experiencing poetry and songs and other things. So awesome. Yeah.
So basically it's magical writing written by witches who write. We are the witches who write. So and talking about sort of writing and moving into non-fiction, today we are very pleased to have with us in our broom cupboard Rachel Patterson, which is, I keep doing that, but she's Rachel, a witch and an author and many other things, because you've got a big umbrella, haven't you, Rachel?
I definitely have. Yeah, it keeps me out of trouble.
Stops you from getting wet.
Definitely.
So Rachel, you tell everybody what you do, because I think it's probably best that you do rather than me.
Okay. I'm a witch. I am a wife, mother to teenage children. I'm High Priestess of the Kitchen Witch Coven. I run an online school of witchcraft. I write books. I write blogs. I've got a new oracle deck coming out as well. What else? I think that's it. I bake.
Yeah, you do. You bake lots of nice cakes.
I've got a bit of a reputation for cake.
You are the cake maker. You're the cake maker. Also, you're a columnist for Take a Break.
Fake Fortunes. Yeah.
How long have you been doing that for?
It's coming up for a year now, actually.
Do you enjoy it?
It's different. It's very different, because I've written for Pagan Dawn for a couple of years now, but that's recipes, and I've written for various different pagan magazines. But this one is writing for people that aren't necessarily pagan. So it's been a bit of a challenge, but it's been an interesting challenge. Yeah.
Do you have a free reign on what you write, or do they edit? Do they give you a briefing? How much do you have to sort of?
Mostly they like it to be seasonal, so I work with the months anyway, so that's not a problem for me. The only editing they've done is to make it a bit shorter, or if they've wanted a bit more explanation about something. So it's been okay.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so you do that, you do the blogs, you do your own blog, don't you?
Yeah.
Which I was looking at last night, and you're pretty regular on that, aren't you?
Yeah, I can't shut me up, basically. I blog for Papist Pagan as well, and I blog for Witches and Pagans, and for the Moonbooks blog as well.
Yeah, my God. And you're a ritualist, so you have your own coven, I presume, or you run groups in the physical world.
Yes.
So you're out at events and you do talks, don't you?
Yeah, do talks at pagan events as well. Yeah.
See, I told you, Wendy, she doesn't stop. She is a creatrix.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we were in a vortex of creative energy, didn't we?
Yeah.
This one, Well, okay, Rachel. Well, my first question would be is, how do you manage all that? How do you get that balance? You know, because
I think I've got a real job as well.
What is your job?
I'm a personal assistant, but I have to do that because that keeps the money coming in. That's the one that pays the bills. Because unfortunately, being an author these days doesn't pay you enough to live on. But I am very lucky. I work from home, have worked from home for the last 10 years probably, doing that. And it's only part-time. So I think that's a big part of it, is the fact that I can work from home. So I can schedule my day and try and fit everything in. I used to have to-do lists, but they used to get longer and longer and longer. So I try and schedule out the whole week now. I've got a real 1985 file of facts and I just schedule out the week roughly.
Yeah.
I have teenage children who all have their own chores. They do their own laundry. There's a washing up rota. They do cooking rota. So everybody has to muck in. No, look at your faces.
Oh, I'm liking this because I've got 2 teenage sons and they do naff all, to be quite honest.
They want their allowance.
Mine are well past teenage. Mine are well past teenage, but they never did very much either. They did cook. Some of the, I did teach them to cook. But no, chores, no, that, well done, you.
If they want clean clothes, they've got to wash their own clothes. They need prompting occasionally, and if they want allowance, they've got to do the washing up and take the bins out. They need, they do need poking with a big stick occasionally, but but yeah, I think the key is working from home. It has allowed me to slot things in, and my job only being part-time, so it has allowed me to slot things in. And I have a brilliant supportive husband, and I have my inner circle of ladies at the Kitchen Witch that if I couldn't do it without them, without their support. We have a team that writes the rituals for our in-person rituals, the open rituals that we do. I basically just roll up for that one. The team write the ritual and they organise it all, and I just turn up with cake basically. So without that team to support, I would be a bit stuffed really.
Yeah.
I get overwhelmed sometimes. I'm not perfect. Believe me, I'm not.
Oh.
Sometimes it all gets a bit too much.
So an extension of that actually is, so what magical practices might you use to enhance your day or enhance your week? You know, is there any things that you do for yourself magically that kind of help you get through all that?
I've had to really, being at the core of it, a Kitchen Witch, basically doing working with what I've got to hand, and I don't follow rules necessarily. Things are a bit hit and miss a lot of the time. I've had to work my practice in with what I do. So when I'm doing the housework, I do work my smudging and my cleansing in with hoovering and dusting, and it all has to be combined for me because I don't have the time to, I don't get up at dawn and wash my face in the dew and collect herbs on the right phase, and because it just doesn't happen. So it's all got to work in really with my daily life. So it is about being practical really. And I live on the edge of a city, so I've got to work that into it as well. So I have got a tiny garden, but I pack as much into it as possible. And my connection to nature daily is sitting in the back garden really.
Right.
To make that connection, I have to work with what I've got.
That's brilliant.
You've got a great YouTube channel. I was watching some snippets last night and this morning. I mean, you've been running that for a few years now, haven't you?
Yeah. More so in the last year, since the garden's kind of come on. I do a bit of a wander. I say wander around the estate. It's a tiny garden on the edge of a city. I mean, you could spit across to the other side of it. But it's my sanctuary, really. It's where I go to connect and unwind and just be, really.
Yeah, I think us modern witches, that's what modern witchcraft's about, isn't it? It's because we do lead such busy, hectic lives. like, you know, yours is one of them, and Wendy and myself have got, it's the same really, isn't it? We've all got things that we do inside and outside the home, and particularly with the spending a lot of our time online now. I think there's a great need to reconnect and stay in with nature, and like you say, you have to include that and integrate it into your daily life, because that really, but don't you think, ladies, that's what witchcraft's all about anyway, isn't it? It's not something you only do when there's a full moon, or when there's a Sabbath, or when there's a festival. It doesn't matter. It's about it. For me, grassroots stuff is about integrating it, weaving it in and out of what you do every day.
Yes, it's spot on. Yeah.
Totally.
And that's where the stories and you know, the essays, the books. Now onto your books, Rachel. You have written a lot of books. I'm flabbergasted with how many books you've written. When I saw all your books on your website last night, I thought, my God, you know, where have they all come from?
Look at all that inane waffle, you thought.
Blimey. So tell us about your books from the beginning.
2013 was the first one. So I have come, although I've been a witch for, scarily, probably nearly 30 years now, actually being out there and doing the whole author talking thing, it only really started about 2013 when my first book happened. Accidentally. I've never thought I'm desperate to write a book. It was Trevor from Moon Books who said to me, would I write the Kitchen Witchcraft one? So I freaked completely, but did it. And it's just snowballed from there. It's just been unreal. It really has. It's just all kind of fallen in from there, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, not even that long, really. What are we now? 2019. So no, not that long, really.
Yeah. But I mean, you've got that Kitchen Witch series, haven't you?
Yeah, that's
series.
Yeah, third one comes out November. That's Crystal Magic in November.
Yeah.
I've got another Pagan Portals, Sun Magic, comes out next month.
I know.
I've also signed a contract with Llewellyn as well. They've got a manuscript in now for a book that will come out next year.
So tell us, how did that come about? How did the Llewellyn gig come about?
Well, I was working on an oracle card deck with a lady, Kate, an agent, basically. And she was talking to Llewellyn about getting the oracle deck in there. And from there grew a conversation. Oh, would she like to write a book for us? So I did, basically, contacted them, and we sort of hashed out the details. And they've got the manuscript for the first edit now. So, eek.
When's your deadline?
My deadline wasn't till the end of July, but it was one of those books that it's about healing, but it's about healing with magic. So it's dealing with all the stuff like menopause, but also anxiety, stress, all the stuff we have to deal with these days, but working to deal with it from a magical point of view. So it's meditations and rituals and spells and all of that kind of area to aim at. Not something I'd ever thought I would write, but as I started it, it just didn't stop. It obviously needed to come out, and I finished it ahead of the deadline. So she says hopefully, because it hasn't come back for edit yet. They might come back and say, no, completely rewrite it.
We were talking about that, Rachel, on our last show, I think, wasn't it, Wendy? How we manage our stress. And using magic to do that, basically, and how lucky we are as witches and as women of the goddess that we've got those tools to use. Don't you think, Rachel?
It's strange because I'm out there, and because my self-admission, I am a bossy control freak, basically. But I think because people see me stand up and give a talk at Witchfest or wherever, and because I'm out there doing my thing, people think I'm confident and lucky and fabulous life and nothing ever goes wrong. But I'm a human being like anybody else, and I'm a menopausal woman who has seriously bad issues. And I have bad days just like the next person. But I think as a witch, like you say, we're lucky because we've got perhaps that little extra edge, because we've got that magical toolkit that we can draw on to help ourselves out. I don't always remember. I'll have a meltdown and then suddenly realise, oh, I could have sorted that. I don't always get it right again, because honestly, I am human. But I think, yeah, we've got that to draw on. And it's just working it into, or recognising that you can do magic to help yourself out.
Yeah, that's right.
Also, you saying about having the magical toolkit, but the other thing that you said was your most important, support was a group of women, and I think that's really, really interesting. I'm a dancer and a dance teacher, and I lead a tribe.
Right.
And that idea of having, just knowing that those women have got your back.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When you're spinning so many plates that you just think that you're going to fall off the world, but just knowing that you've got that group of women there, I think you're right. I think we do have an advantage.
Yeah.
Just knowing that we've got that support, I think it's really important. So what drew you to magic in the first place?
Probably from birth, because I was born on the 31st of October.
Amazing.
So being born on that day, I kind of always had people buy me witchy things, or, that sort of connection. But I think as well, probably my upbringing, my dad always gardened organically. He always had an allotment. He taught us all about birds and animals. And we went to all the sacred sites when we were kids, long before Stonehenge ever had a fence around it. We used to sit in the early 70s and have our picnics in the middle of it.
Yeah, brilliant.
So I think he brought that kind of connection as well for me. And I've always loved dragons and the moon, and I've got sort of charm bracelets from when I was a tiny child that have got moon symbols and fairies and pixies and things on them. So I think it was always there, like I'm sure a lot of witches will probably say the same thing. But I spent my late teens going to church every week, like a good little girl from Girls Brigade. And I did that for about 5 or 6 years, really, but because I think I was looking for something. I had a faith. I knew that it was there, but it wasn't quite right. I think I actually struggled with the evil devil side of it. I couldn't recognize that side of it. So there was always something that never quite fitted. And then I just stumbled upon this book in a charity shop, History of Witchcraft. Not written by a witch, it was a historian. 50p, bought it, read it, and thought, that's it. I've come home. That's just it. And that's where the journey began. But it was before internet kind of was really very big. And so I had to scrabble about finding books and bits and pieces to start my journey. But that was about it, really, and not looked back since.
It's interesting.
It's so lovely. I really love to hear other people's where it kind of came from. I just think it's fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. That's really awesome.
Yeah, that reminded me of when you were talking about how you loved going to church, or there was I always loved going to church. I was a Sunday school kid, Girls Brigade, Girl Guide, and always had a fascination for churches or temples of worship of whatever denomination it was. I had a fascination. There was something about them. But like you, Rachel, and I don't know about you as well, Wendy, but I never felt that Christianity was for me. It just felt too restrictive, and for whatever reason, I'm not and I think another common denominator with witches, I don't know about you two think, is that we don't like to conform. You know,
we don't like rules.
no, rules and regulations and conforming just doesn't work with me. You know, if it's guidelines, if somebody says, oh, these are the guidelines, Sheena, I'll go, oh, okay. But if they say these are the rules, I'll go, oh, no, thanks.
It's good to have a bit of structure for things, but
Yeah,
I don't know. Rules don't do it for me.
So that kind of segues quite nicely into your goddess work, Rachel, because you do online courses for goddess courses, and tell us about that, because I think that's really lovely.
I think the main one is the Ark of the Goddess, which is a year-long course that we did, and we did it because we were looking for something for ourselves to do. We wanted a course that worked with the months, basically. I wanted something that for the energy of each month to work with, and it fitted that we worked with a different goddess each month, or god, you know, but mainly goddesses. And so we looked, we couldn't find exactly what we wanted, so we wrote it. So we ended up writing this 12-month course that does work with different goddesses each month. Not specific ones, you meditate and find, or a goddess finds you for each particular month for whatever you need at that time. And that's kind of really where it started. And then we wrote a Celtic goddess course because my matron goddess is the Kalak. She's quite bossy and quite strict and doesn't actually like me working with anybody else.
Really?
But so yeah, the Ark of the Goddess is the main one, really, because we were looking for something for us to work with.
Yeah.
So that's how it came about.
You talk about the Kalak being your sort of your goddess.
Yeah.
Has she always been, or is it because this is the time of life when she might have a little bit more to say because she's a good old crone, the Kalak.
Well, I hit 50 last year, but she's been with me. Oh, she's probably been with me for about 10 years now. So yeah, she came a bit earlier on. But I think I needed a bossy, kick butt goddess. Basically, I needed someone that's really gonna not stand any nonsense and really give me a kick if I don't do what I'm supposed to do. And she found me, and that's been it, really. And she gets more and more possessive as the years go on.
Really? When you say she found you, how did she find you? How did you experience that?
Do you know, I was reading a witch lit book, funnily enough.
Really?
I was reading a fiction book written by Silver Ravenwolf, actually.
Oh,
She's got several fiction books, and it was a story about a modern day witch. But this blue-faced crone kept coming into the story, and I'd never heard of her before particularly. I kind of vaguely recognised the name, and from that point, I then kept seeing things about her. I'd read other books and her name would pop up, or I'd see something on the internet, and that was it, really. She found me, and she's never left.
yeah. Yeah, that's often the way, isn't it? I feel the same with the Morrigan, you know. Suddenly you feel that relationship, it just kind of comes up all over the place, doesn't it? Yeah. And also the book, you wrote a book about
her, yeah.
And
she insisted.
Yeah, I was going to say, blimey. And tell us about the cover to that, because the cover is quite
my daughter's an artist. She's 18, but she was only 15, 16 when she drew the cover. She just loves to draw, and I had a specific image in my head of what the Kalak looks like, and we sort of looked on the internet and got various photographs of real old ladies that I liked, and she sketched it from there. There it is on the book. Yeah. And to me, it's just how she looks.
Really?
Yeah.
And that is quite special, isn't it? Having your daughter do the cover for your book.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Is she in any way leaning towards the craft, or what do you?
If you ask her, she'll tell you she's pagan, but it's not really her thing. My son, he's 13. I think he'll be more into it. He loves fossils and crystals, and he comes along to the open rituals and quite enjoys pottering about, and he likes working with spirit animals, totally unprompted, calls in spirit animals to guard him at night and things like that. He's done that for a couple of years or so, so he may well do, but I've never pushed it. They know what I do, and if they ask questions, I answer them, but I've never really pushed it as such.
Yeah. Do yours, Wendy, do your children follow the craft, or no?
When Jazzy I've done rituals with Jazzy. We've done things together. We've worked because I'm a head witch, so I'm a soul witch. I have worked with other people before. My sister-in-law and I, whenever we've done magic, it's been awesome. And Jasmine, my daughter's been in on that sometimes as well. But nothing that she actually works at, and not my boys either. But the same as you, they were, they wanted to do cubs and brownies and things like that, and I said I'd go to church with them. I have no problem. I did church. I was a Sunday school teacher. I did that at the beginning as well. But they weren't that bothered about church either, to be honest. So no, not at all. But sometimes if Jazzy comes to Wales, then sometimes we will do something together. We'll just potter off and go down the riverbank and just do something together. So she's happy to do that, but she doesn't do stuff on her own.
No. Now, Rachel, what about your husband? Because I know he's very supportive of you.
Yeah.
And isn't he responsible for your amazing website?
Yeah, he's not pagan. He worships at the altar of rock and roll, really.
Glad to hear that.
His day job is a graphic designer, which is incredibly useful for websites and posters, and he does my publicity shots and all that kind of thing. He likes messing about with that kind of thing. But he's in a band. He's a drummer in a band in the evenings, so that's his passion. But yeah, he supports. He comes along to the talks and things with me, so that I don't have to go on my own or anything. So he's brilliant, really. It's been a real boost.
Yeah, I think having that support. Yeah. We need it, don't we?
Yeah, definitely.
Whether it's through family and friends, whether it's a group. I mean, I certainly feel it with my coven, which is a handful of other ladies, but like you both said, it's knowing that support is amazing. I found it particularly helpful the last year, because I'll tell you, Rachel, my mum has been very ill for the last, well, I say very ill, but she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's last year.
Right.
So that's been a real journey.
Yeah, I bet.
Sort of 12 months. But you know what, my coven sisters have been amazing, because we're all roughly the same age, but we're all crones, but they're all just slightly older than me, and I kind of look up to them, and I suppose I've been doing a little bit of leaning on them, which I would never dream of doing with my friends.
No.
Do you know what I mean? But
yeah,
exactly. It's just been lovely. And one of them in particular, she's been a victim support worker, and she's just, so on it with knowing what to do and what to say. And it's been lovely. Okay, can I just ask you one question, Rachel, because we're going to do our Witch and Ori section now. We've had a nice in the Broom Cupboard section there, talking about what you've been doing and what you've, what's brought you to where you are now. But a little question that I've got is, I noticed on your credentials on your website, your qualifications, you've done 2 fiction courses.
Yeah.
Tell us about them. I mean, is there any fiction in the pipeline? Have we got any competition?
No, I take my hat off to you ladies for writing fiction. I've had a go, and I've really, really struggled with it. I love the idea of it, and I love reading. I read all the time. It's one of my favourite pastimes.
Yeah.
I've read the Terry Pratchett books inside out, back to front, 74 times each.
Wendy loves them, don't we?
Yeah, he's my comfort read. He's my go-to read.
Yeah.
So I am in awe of fiction. And I've got a few characters in my head. I've got the beginnings of a story, and that's as far as it gets. I get to that point and it stops. I can write you a non-fiction book in my sleep probably, but fiction, I am in awe of you ladies for writing that, because I found it really, really difficult. Really? I don't know why, I just did. I think I'll leave it to you guys.
Okay, that's interesting though, because and likewise, I mean, reading for me at the moment feels like a bit of a luxury. I get 10 minutes before I conk out at night in bed, but yeah, because I'm just so busy with work and everything, with writing. But I just, you know, and I say to my husband every time I sit down with a book, I said this just feels so luxurious just to be reading. Yeah. You know, because I love it so much. I just love reading and books. So Rachel, can we have you got a little excerpt from one of your books that you can read us?
I've got a bit from Witchcraft into the Wilds, which I'm really proud of all the books that I've done. I still am overwhelmed and amazed that people read them and like them. A big thank you to everybody, because I am just gobsmacked by it all, really, that people read my waffle. It just amazes me. But
I've got a couple of your books here, look. in the tree house.
That Moon Magic one's the biggest seller, actually. That's
a great book. Do you know what? I often refer to it in my fiction. So, you know, it's great. Right.
But yeah, this is Witchcraft into the Wilds was kind of where I'm at now, because I think, like most of us, our journey twists and turns a bit. And I started in Wicca. I've done the 3 Wiccan degrees, and that's where my journey started. But it's twisted and turned, and I, you know, to put a label on it, kitchen witch, hedge witch, wild witch now, basically doing my own thing. So Witchcraft into the Wild is no tools, not even any crystals. It's using what nature provides to work your witchcraft. It's working with weather magic and leaves and sticks and stones, and so everything that nature provides for free. So that's really got kind of a special place for me, really, because that's how my witchcraft works these days. So this is from that, but it's about the Wheel of the Year. So when I first started on my pagan journey, I was presented with the Wheel of the Year that it seemed most pagans worked with. I spent ages trying to remember the dates and learn the names and correspondences, and even to this day I have to stop and think about it when trying to recall what's what. I also started dressing my altar for each Sabbath and looking up all the correct colours, herbs, associations. But then I started to lapse, and I realised I wasn't connecting with the celebrations, and what I was doing was just a mechanical action because I thought I had to. As my journey has deepened and the years have passed, I don't worry about any of it anymore. I don't particularly work with the Sabbaths, at least not the dates set on the calendar, especially as Mother Nature appears to be having a menopausal meltdown and the seasons have become all squiffy. I have summer bedding plants in the garden that have continued to flower all winter, daffodils and hawthorn flowering in January, and it's all gone completely mad. In fact, the winters in the last couple of years UK haven't even been cold, so it makes it difficult to celebrate the specific Sabbaths when nature isn't playing ball. I left the Wheel of the Year behind and I started working with the energies of each month. It started a few years ago and actually has evolved to me working not just with the energies of each month, but sometimes even the specific energies of the week or the day. It's all governed by what nature and the weather are doing at any given time. So that's pretty much what I do.
Lovely.
You could have just read that from inside my head.
Excellent.
No. Rachel, can we round up by telling us what's on the cards for you? What for the rest of the year? What have you got coming up?
Okay. I can't believe it's May already for a start. I've been blinking and this whole year's gone, isn't it?
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
I am talking for the first time at Witchfest Midlands next weekend. So I'm up to Stoke-on-Trent next weekend for the first time, which should be good. I'm also at Witchfest in Croydon in November.
Another one in Croydon?
Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
Whereabouts in Croydon?
They're back in Croydon at Fairfields Hall, where they started off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, back in there in November. Pagan Pride South I'm at as well in August, down in Southampton.
Okay. Yeah.
I've got Pagan Portal's Sun Magic book comes out in June. Kitchen Witchcraft Crystal Magic comes out in November. My Oracle deck, Flower Magic, comes out in November as well. I think that's it for this year. I've got a couple of book manuscripts that are in. There's the one with Llewellyn, but I'm also writing a cookbook for Moon Books, that's due in this year, so that'll be out next year. So yeah, always doing something.
What's the Llewellyn book? What's that called?
It's called A Witch's Journey.
And is that the healing one that you were talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds like a good one.
That'd be 2020 publication, that one.
Yeah.
It's scary to think that it'll be 2020, but
I know. Well, like you say, I mean, I still feel caught up in that vortex of Beltane energy.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, the year seemed to start really slowly, and then suddenly the pace of life just quickens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think as writers, we've all kind of like, you know, got projects going on, and in the first draft of something else is in production. And Wendy and I are the same, and it's like that speeds things up as well, doesn't it, when you've got such a full, you know, you're filling your time with so much stuff,
and you're working from deadline to deadline.
I know, and yet the whole ethos of the craft of the wise is sort of, you know, balance and turning to nature, staying connected. But it's been really lovely talking to you. I've got one more question, because we are on the eve of the full moon. So what do you do anything special at full moon, by yourself or with others, or?
Not particularly full moon. I do work on the new moon more often. I like to work my abundance check, let's keep the money rolling in thing on the new moon. The full moon, I do struggle sometimes on the full moon, and I think it is going back to the menopausal thing, and that all ties in with it. It does send me a little bit squiffy. I do tend to not be able to sleep so well on the full moon, and I do feel the heightened energy. I think because we're so tapped into it as witches, it affects us really strongly, I think. I will, you know, I like to stand outside and just give a nod to her and give her my thanks and that kind of thing. But it is fitting all in. I'd love to be able to go out and do lots of different moon rituals and things, but that's time again. So it is generally just standing in the garden and just giving my thanks to her, really.
Yeah. And do you find that now you're moving into cronehood, as we all are, I understand totally the pits and troughs of the menopause. It is a roller coaster, isn't it? It is a roller coaster.
It's a killer.
Some women sail through it, and some women don't.
I'm one of those.
I didn't at all. What about you, Wendy? How did you get through it, or are you still getting through it?
Yeah, mine was really, really early. It all started really early. So I think that may well have been stress. And I had been quite poorly as well. I'd lost a lot of weight out of not being well. So I think that may have brought it on. but then my problem was the fact that I couldn't sleep at night because of constantly being so hot that it would wake me up. Quite often have to strip the bed, and then, but I could do that 3 times in a night. My partner is amazing. He's wonderful, and incredibly understanding. And so, it was at that point I hadn't wanted to go to the doctors or anything like that. I actually had to go to the doctors because I just couldn't handle it. And that all came about because the nurse asked me, I went in for a well woman check, and she asked me if I was all right, and I just burst into tears, which is
oh, I recognise that. I recognise that phrase.
Yeah. So mine's been a bit of a balance, trying to get the balance right journey. And so I've discovered that the lowest possible dose of HRT does the job. So I was on that and I was really, really happy. And then I decided to stop smoking. So taking nicotine out of my system after having imbibed it for like 35 years just sent me crazy again. So all my hormones, it was like my body got shook up and it was trying to go back to factory settings. It needed to go back to the beginning. So I went through all the menopausal symptoms all over again. But I'm just starting to get the balance right. And I put on masses of weight as well, which just appeared. But I found that walking does it for me. I walk, and that connection with my feet on the grass and being connected has helped me so much, and it's helped the weight drop off. And I'm actually standing up as a vegan now. I'm properly vegan. Lots of whole foods, lots of looking after myself with good stuff, and I loved what we were saying at the beginning about using magic every day, and in our everyday lives. So this morning I've made lentil soup for later, and it's actually saying to myself, so where's the magic in this? And it's like, so now whenever I make anything at the stove, I'm like, I mean, you do it, Sheena, because you write beautiful songs. So you have that kind of rhyming and whatever going on. Whereas I've never really been a poet, and I've never really been into that. But I've started doing it. So so like cooking food and stuff like that. But a big part of it is about loving me. Yeah. And I think that's something that I forget to do, and I think the menopause might be nature's way of reminding us to love ourselves, because we have to look after ourselves when we're feeling that rubbish.
Absolutely.
And
I for me, I think working with the crone has been fundamental, working with the crone energy. And in understanding what the hell was going on, because I don't know about you two ladies, but I didn't know what the hell was going on when I was raging one minute and loving the next, and crashed out the next because I had exhausted the next, and then it was just madness. It felt like I felt like a teenager again, that adolescence. Which you can't explain to anybody. And I think, again, if you've got a wonderful partner, husband, then that really helps. But I think Ian was banging his head against the wall a few times, go off for a bike ride, he'd say. Go off for a bike ride. In the nicest possible way. But yeah, working with that crone energy and understanding actually what it was for me, because there's a lot of in the medical world, or the conventional medical world, there's a lot of sort of seemingly sort of philosophy that, oh, you're going through the menopause, or we'll put you on this drug or whatever, as if it's some kind of illness, you know. And I refused to resign myself to the fact that I was ill. I was just going through a transition, a transformative. It's like dying, isn't it? It's that death card in the tarot. There's a phase of your life that is coming to an end, and like I say, the guide for me was the crone. You know, she was the one that I would sit with and ask, you know, what the hell is going on and what do I do about it? I don't know about
I like you, I thought I was going crazy. I had days when I was expecting the men in white men to turn up on the doorstep to cart me away, and it is frightening. It is so scary. But it's interesting, Wendy, you said it's about going to the doctor, and I think I did the same. I didn't even think of that. I just wanted to deal with it. It's a natural thing. I'll deal with it myself. I tried herbal stuff. I didn't have an awful lot of luck. And in the end, it was like a last resort to go to the doctor.
I know.
But in actual fact, I asked specifically when I made an appointment to talk to the doctor that deals with the menopause. And so I managed to get someone that actually knew what she was talking about, explained it all. She's been absolutely brilliant. But it was that last resort, and I don't think perhaps it should be. I think we do think it's natural, we'll deal with it, but you don't have to. And I wished I'd gone sooner to see her. But it is a transition, isn't it? You're right, it is the next stage in our life cycles, really. But it is really frightening and incredibly difficult to deal with if you don't understand what's going on.
I think I've come now to realise that actually now I'm over the hill a bit more with it. I feel like I've plateaued out a little bit more, that to see it more as a spiritual awakening, you know, and working with that, you know, and that new life that you have got, because you've still got all that creative energy, you know, it just doesn't, you just don't release it in the same way anymore. Do you know what I mean? And I think this is what I talk to a lot of women about this, and I've said, since I've been in my 50s, I have never been so creative. Ever, you know, honestly, and thank the goddess for our witchcraft, because that gives us a medium of expression that we can then, you know, release it or let it, you know,
it's an outlet,
use
isn't
it. Yeah, definitely.
And I definitely use my dance. My dance is a huge outlet for me. I didn't start belly dance until I was 40. And I didn't start tribal. I've been dancing tribal 10 years now. So yeah, in my 40s and 50s, that's and that went in turn with me following various different paths to find out where my craft really was. I was talking to somebody about this before. I did things and I knew things and I felt things, but I had no idea why. I didn't know where it came from. And even some of the things, I just did them naturally. I thought everybody did it. I did, you know, when somebody says to me about how good I am at holding space and how good I am at relaxing people and clearing energy, and I was thinking, do I, you know, I had no idea what I was doing. So it really has been a real journey for me, and a bit like yourself, Rachel, it was a book that did it for me, and it was a book called The Hedge Witch by Ray Beth, and I picked it up and started reading it, and it was just like every page going, hang on, that's me, hang on, I do that, hang on, and it was really lovely to know that it was okay to just be little me, that I didn't have to be, you know, I didn't even have to belong to a coven. I didn't, you know, that it was okay. It was almost like saying, yeah, you're okay as you are, you're good enough. And yeah, that once I'd found that, it was just, yeah. And I'm blessed now. I live I live at the end of a valley on a hill in Wales, and we've got 4 acres of land, and we've got our own riverbank. I mean, it sounds all very posh and everything. It's so not. We've not long had a roof. I mean, it's, you know, it's fairly basic. But I lived in a real town environment where it was so hard to connect with nature. So once all my children have been through university and whatever they were doing, we've come to Wales, just my partner and I. So I'm so blessed to, and I'm so going to buy the book that you were talking about the wilds, because basically most of my magic is like that. Somebody will contact me or something will pop in my head and I think I need to do something, and sometimes I'll gather things from the house. Maybe it will just be a container and a candle or whatever, and then as I'm on my way down to the riverbank, I'll find a feather. Well, I obviously needed the feather, and then I'll just, you know, I don't know, I just go by instinct. So, and that's how my magic is now.
Yeah, trust your intuition. Yeah, definitely.
And the craft, again, you know, our lives as modern witches is what informs our writing. It's what informs our art, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if it, and I give thanks now to the menopause, because, you know, without it I wouldn't have written this, you know, which is my new self-published version, Rachel, of the Madness of Magic, because that was my remedy. That was, you know, we had at the time we had this was back in 2012 when I first wrote that first draft, and we had a little caravan at the end of our drive, and I used to go and sit in there and write that first draft for that book, you know, and it was just it was my way of getting it out of my system. It was very healing for me. And yeah, so yeah, it's interesting. It doesn't matter whether you write fiction or non-fiction, does it? But it's all, our lives inform our writing, because we are witches who write. We are witches who write. And Rachel, we in our Witchlit group that Wendy and I run with Laura and Ruth, we've got an anthology coming out.
I saw.
Midsummer, yeah, so that's kind of in production now. It's almost there. I've just got to get the pre-order link, Wendy, for it, and then we're almost there. But hopefully, all being well, we'll, you know, you never know, we'll do another one if it all goes well, Wendy. And it would be lovely.
Yeah.
Rachel, if you know, like to contribute in any way, a little essay or two would be nice.
I'm really looking forward to that coming out, because we were putting it together. I mean, Laura's done an awful lot of that, of kind of combining that together, but we had the opportunity to read and sort of help with editing or whatever, and the standard across the board is fabulous. It's don't you think, Sheena?
Yeah.
The quality of the writing.
Yeah, we have got a few Moon Books writers. I think we've got Maeve Savage, and we've got Nimue and Imelda.
I love Nimwe's books. Nimwe's books are fantastic.
Aren't they? And Imelda. I mean, I had Imelda in the treehouse last year for an interview, and she's a larger than life character. She's amazing. So I'm looking, and she's just had a book come out, hasn't she?
Yes, she has
come out.
Yeah,
I must get that. But yeah, so hopefully we'll do another one, Wendy, and then we'll have Rachel in on it, shall we? But anyway, Rachel, it's been lovely talking to you.
No, it's been brilliant. Thank you.
We must do it again, because it's like one of those situations where you know you all get together and you think, oh, this has got to carry on. You know, but anyway, I hope that I'm sure, well, I feel certainly there's been more than enough information that we've bantered between us, and I think that our listeners, our viewers will have received a lovely witch's eye view of Rachel Patterson in the broom cupboard with and we wish you all the luck with your projects and you know, everything else that's going on this year, and you must come back again and have another chat.
Absolutely love to. Thank you.
Okay. And until next time, everybody, it's goodbye from us in the Broom Cupboard. We are the Witches Who Write. Come and join us in the Witchlit group. We'd love to have you join us. And we'll see you very soon. Happy writing and happy reading. Magical reading, I hope, and magical writing. Bye-bye.
Let's sit up together, stir the madness round